Thanks for joining me on About Alberta Tech, which is focused on introducing Alberta tech companies to Albertans. Our goal is to share the innovation and diversity that exists in this province in quick bites. My name is Lenora Thomas, and today I'm joined by Darren Boyer, founder of Lightcatch. Thanks for joining me, Darren.
Oh, it's a privilege to be here. Thank you.
So let's start with some background on you. How did you get into tech?
Well, I wanted to actually be a hedge fund manager or run my own money, and it was 2007. There was very limited opportunities coming up for what I had experience in, and the limited trust in the energy industry was just wild. There was lots of energy, lots of activity and business happening in Grand Prairie. So I did a kind of a back of the napkin risk reward calculation and felt like if I put a limited amount of capital into an IT company, I would be home every night and I would have maybe some income from all the activity that's taking place from getting clients, in the energy industry and all the boom that was happening in Grand Prairie. And that's how I got started. I felt like it would be limited capital and maybe have an edge with a business model. There was an East Coast company in the US that was private equity finance, and they were doing roll-ups of smaller IT companies. So I felt like in the industry there was some mismanagement or there were inefficiencies that maybe we could reproduce on a regional scale. And really, I didn't really have an edge. It was just a business model that I thought had opportunity.
Okay. And what led you to Lightcatch from there?
Well, about 8 years into that IT company, it was doing fine, but it was probably one of the worst investments of my life. And the East Coast roll-up company, the CEO publicly said, "This is the hardest company I've ever managed in all my years of being a CEO," and he retired. So that was kind of my flag to start looking around and saying, okay, this isn't really that scalable. I have some sort of an edge, but my staff, who were great A players, didn't really have a lot of upside potential as a regional IT company. So what else can we do? And we began actively exploring different ideas and different opportunities. And people started to be very vocal, even our clients, about how bad the crime problem was. And so we just began to dig into it. And after a while, we realized there's a real opportunity here. And we just kept pursuing it, and it kept proving that there was a real demand for how people could be helped in this situation.
Okay, so that's a perfect opening. What does Lightcatch do?
Lightcatch is a free app that allows the public to alert one another of suspicious activity or criminal activity. And then as soon as you create that alert, every app user within 20 kilometers is notified. The difference between it and the most older technologies is that when that alert comes in, it's either near your home or near your work or where you're standing. So it has and you see that alert on a map interface, and you see your location on top of where the alert last was. So the interpretation of what took place is a lot more accurate, and it's a lot faster than siloed written text that is sometimes very scattered in its approach.
Okay, so I think there was an example that I saw that related to, like, if a car was stolen. So it would show up on the app saying that, my vehicle has been stolen. Can you watch out for this? Something along that line?
Yeah, absolutely. And we allow video, images, and text input to be uploaded to the app. And that you would see a location of where it took place, and then any information that other app users provide help show the movement of that stolen item for the rest of the public. So if it traveled from here to Edmonton, and then where I'm in Grand Prairie, then everyone in Edmonton would be alerted. And the owner could then contact the police. It's not here, it's in Edmonton. And they can keep working together until results come.
Oh, wow. Okay. And so when you were starting to look at this, did you pick a specific city like Grand Prairie to work in, or how did you really get it started?
We originally started with a limited group in social media in Grand Prairie, just like you described.
Mm-hmm.
With word of mouth, it grew to 5,000 users and then 10,000 users within 6 months. And I would have stopped it within 3 months, but we kept getting so many results that I felt like I would be doing a very public disservice to stop it. Within 6 months, we'd recovered 35 stolen vehicles. Within 10 months, it was well over $1 million of stolen equipment. And so we saw the public uptake and we saw the results, and that was our validation that there is an interest from the public to see something like this take place. And then we went and financed the app.
Okay, so you started in social media, moved into the app. That's a big step. What are you growing towards?
In my mind, it's 300 to 400 million users. Because we've seen in some markets 5 to 10% of the population get involved, and once they see how much more effective it is, there is no going back to old siloed information or nothing at all. It helps a community be that much more well-informed, be that much more of a deterrence towards crime. So not only do we see it stopping theft or warning about somebody scoping out a property, but in Brazil or in South Africa, it would save lives. People have come to us and asked us, when can you bring this here? So we're hoping that we can help lead that charge. And if not, I guess we'll just be another Canadian company that should have made it.
Well, it sounds like you have the right bones there. So, you had your IT company in Grand Prairie, and what has kept you in Alberta with this product?
I guess I read The New Market Wizards. It came out in 1992, and already in the investment management industry, there were people running money out of the Caribbean. There was a guy called the Sultan of Currencies doing it out of his house. He had a ticker tape in his bedroom. So I never thought about a regional company as being a barrier, like having a location in Alberta as being a barrier. It's something that the hedge fund industry and money had been doing since the 90s. And I had ties to Grand Prairie, and then in the 2000s, we had some Ruby on Rails projects where some developers had put together projects for me, and they were out of Winnipeg. So I knew remote development was a very effective way of bringing in the best talent to a task. And in our IT company, we had a very strong relationship with Indian IT contractors for years. They did very great work for us. So the idea of a global talent pool just seemed like a default place to start from. So I just stay where my ties are.
That's great. Okay. And if you're looking at your favorite story in terms of how your product has been used, what would that story be? I'm putting you on the spot, I know.
Well, I had a joke for a little bit later. So it's my most recent one. But favorite stories, we have, being in this business, and in Red Deer, they've had a 41% drop in vehicle thefts in 2020 versus the national average was a 15% decline.
Wow.
That drop closely is correlated to our user engagement and the activity that we've seen on the app. And Red Deer is the 10th highest crime city in Canada. So I feel like if we can help people stop stealing stuff in Red Deer, we can do it anywheres.
No kidding. I'm
And
feeling a little bit bad for my not quite my hometown. I'm from Lacombe, but I'm feeling a little bit bad for Red Deer right now, except for you're helping.
yeah, Lacombe is a much quieter place compared to there. We
Yeah.
literally watched them move out of Sundre or move out of the Red Deer area, and I felt like they're going east. They're going east, and I found out there were some high-profile arrests in the south and the east just a week or two or three after we started to see that migration.
Wow.
I'll share a couple with you, Lenora, if that's okay. You can
Please
cut these.
do.
So I had a board of advisors, and the board of advisors was, local businessmen or people out of Calgary with policing experience or legal experience. And they appreciated what we were doing. But on Canada Day at 10 a.m., I got a call from one of them and said, my truck had just been stolen. I'm not even home. My wife's home. And they blew through my Quonset door. And so I quickly put this on the app, and we quickly identified where this suspect was moving to. And a video began to be uploaded within 60 minutes. 75 minutes later, he was arrested. I take a lot of pride because the man that got arrested was one of Canada's most wanted, and he had escaped 4 manhunts already in 2020. He had escaped police dogs on foot at least 3 times this year and at least 2 aerial manhunts. And so we can't take credit for his arrest, but the fact that we had enough users to know exactly where this joker was in the most of those 75 minutes and get the vehicle recovered, get him arrested, that and my advisor, like, this was his wife's Jeep. So
Yeah.
he was like, now I know this works.
No kidding. That's insane. Especially considering the guy escaped manhunts prior to that.
Yeah, he was a bad dude. He was a real, he knew what he was doing.
Yeah,
In
you,
that
you don't
level.
really want like little citizens reaching out to them. You want them to report him straight to the cops.
Absolutely, absolutely. And just last week, I was talking to a new customer. I wanted to give him a phone call and make sure he was happy. And he said, he'd been married 42 years, and he lived in Ponoka County, so really close to Lacombe. And he said, I heard about this app on an email last spring. So, well, I'll take a look. And he said, I knew there was crime where we were, and we had been robbed in 2013, so I knew it could happen, but I was shocked at how much was happening. It seems like it was almost every night. So we dealt with that, and we did the best we could. And then I was over by my neighbor's last week, and he yells at me, hey, is that app of yours even working? And he said, I don't know. So we haven't got anything in weeks. And so we took a drive to Sylvan Lake and Red Deer, and sure enough, there's alerts there. So the app is working. And he said, I just want you to know I'm proud to have this sign up, because I think that it changed the way things are taking place around my town, around where I live.
You can see that community interaction and the benefit to the community right at your fingertips.
Yeah, when you get enough people engaged, you can make you can move faster than the bad guys, and give the police very accurate information. They love to catch bad guys. So if you can give them, the right information, and it's accurate, you've got multiple confirmations, that's why they signed up for that job. And so it's a great combination.
Well, that is very cool, and I'm still a little scared of that one dude, but he's caught now. Okay, so what else do you think our community should know about you and Lightcatch?
You know, what I learned and what I think might be interesting is that cities have a problem, and that's an addiction problem.
Mhm.
And that crystal meth is by far the most prevalent drug on the streets. I didn't realize it's only $5 or $10 for a
Oh,
dose of crystal meth. And when the user has that, they're often awake for 30 hours straight.
oh
So if you
boy.
think about these dynamics, while we're sleeping, they can't help themselves, they're awake. And a $10, like a $1,000 bicycle is at least another $10 hit. Maybe it's 2 hits. They could break into a car and they could take a little bit of change, or they could take some glasses out of that, and maybe they got enough to get them the next dose. So this dynamic that is occurring, and I've seen the chief of police here in Grand Prairie say, you know, you can see on the face of somebody who's been using this for 3 or 4 years, they look different, and the doctors say that their brains are different. And my point in that is they do things under that influence that's completely irrational. It doesn't make sense from a society point of view, but they can't help themselves. So while they're extremely desperate and cunning, they're not organized.
Yeah.
And if people, you know, somebody in the city says, well, I don't have to worry about this, actually in Alberta and in the West, it is all 20 of the highest crime cities in Canada are all in the West. So our packages on our doorways, our stolen bicycles, our vehicles that get broken into, our cars that get jacked, we're actually feeding organized crime. And what we could do as a citizen is say, you know, I'll give this thing 5 minutes a week and help organize, protect your community where you are. It's a very small commitment, but it actually can help shut down that kind of activity and create that kind of a deterrence. Um, when you get a few other people involved, it makes it so that they can't afford to do business in that area. And they will certainly try different areas and see if it's a good one to do business in, but that's how they afford this whole ecosystem, is through the movement of these goods that the addicts pick up and they resell them. You know, I learned all this stuff, and I would really like to make a dent in these guys, and I would love to have the listeners' involvement in helping shut this down.
And definitely that is, I didn't realize that we had the top 20 for crime. That's a scary thing.
Yeah, all of them are in Western Canada, starting from Manitoba, working westward, and a great deal of them are in Alberta,
Which, considering your
unfortunately.
economy, it makes sense.
Yeah, the prosperity is actually helping feed the ecosystem, and sometimes our trust and our naivety is helping feed the ecosystem. So the other side of it is, if enough people are working together and it's worth their time to work together, they can help shut this down. And it's really rewarding to see people get their stuff back or keep their stuff safe.
I believe it. And that goes not only for you, but for anyone who signs up to that app. So that is very cool. Well, thank you so much for your time today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Lenora. It's a pleasure to be here, and um, thank you